Hi, friends. Today, I want to share a new story with you. Enjoy. The day Marilyn Curtis arrived, I could feel tension fill the office like a cold breeze. There was something about her. She seemed in control, strict and unapproachable. I was at my desk, doing my usual work, trying to ignore the tension at the entrance. She walked in with such confidence that everyone stopped what they were doing, even if it was just for a second. Her suit was perfect, her posture straight, and her sharp eyes looked around the room, as if she was judging everyone there. When she looked at me, I kept my head down, pretending to read a file. I knew better than to draw attention, at least not yet. Julian, right. Her voice was cold and clear, breaking the silence in the office. I looked up and saw her standing by my desk, holding a stack of papers with a smirk on her face. Yes, ma'am, I answered, forcing a polite smile. Good. I need you to handle these. She dropped the papers on my desk, giving me a quick look at my wrinkled shirt and worn-out tie, clearly judging me. Simple tasks, perfect for someone like you. I took the papers, feeling the sting of her words more than the weight of the files. She didn't know who I was. To her, I was just another worker, someone she could boss around. What she didn't know was that I owned this company, 91% of it. But I didn't show off about it. Let people think what they wanted. Of course, I said, my voice calm as I set the papers on my desk. She didn't say anything else and walked away, her high heels clicking on the floor. I watched her go to her office, already decorated with awards, as if she had already conquered the place. The office felt tense as she walked by, with everyone looking at each other, unsure about the new boss. Sarah, the receptionist, whispered to me as I passed her desk on my way to the break room. She's something, huh? She said, wide-eyed. Yeah, I replied, grabbing a cup of coffee more out of habit than anything. She's going to make things interesting. Sarah nodded, happy someone else noticed. I heard she made James from accounting cry already. I chuckled quietly, though it wasn't a real laugh. Wouldn't surprise me. Marilyn Curtis was tough, but I wasn't worried. People like her always burn out quickly. What she didn't know was that I wasn't just an employee. I was the storm she wouldn't see coming. It was a Wednesday afternoon when Marilyn stormed into the office again, her heels clicking loudly on the floor. I had just sat down to review some client reports when the door to my cubicle flew open. Julian. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the office noise. She slammed a document on my desk, eyes full of anger. Care to explain this? I looked at the paper in front of me, confused. It was an email to one of our biggest clients, full of complaints about bad service and damaged goods. The client was saying they would end the contract. I don't understand, I said, picking up the paper, frowning. I didn't send this. Marilyn crossed her arms, her lips twisting into a sarcastic smile. Of course you didn't, she said, clearly mocking me. Someone like you couldn't handle something that important. But the email came from your workstation. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just an accusation. She was trying to frame me. I knew I hadn't written that email. I would never do that. But here it was, printed out, with my name on it. I would never send something like this, I said, my voice calm. But my heart was racing. There's been a mistake. A mistake. Marilyn laughed coldly, almost mocking me. You've made too many mistakes, Julian. First your work, and now this? It's embarrassing. Before I could reply, Sarah appeared in the doorway, looking nervous. Is everything okay? She asked carefully. No, Marilyn snapped, waving the paper in her hand. Julian thinks he's above responsibility. I looked at Sarah, feeling thankful for her. Sarah, I didn't send this email, I said firmly. Someone must have used my account. Marilyn rolled her eyes and stepped closer. Blaming others? How predictable. I stared at her, knowing this wasn't about the email. She wanted to show everyone she was in control and humiliate me, but she didn't know who she was messing with. Not yet. I'll figure this out, I said, keeping my voice cold. But the truth will come out. She didn't respond, just turned and walked away, leaving a storm behind her. I took a deep breath. This wasn't over. Not yet. When I entered the conference room, it was filled with tension, buzzing from the upcoming shareholder meeting. Marilyn was already there, talking to some executives near the window. She didn't see me at first, but when she did, her eyes narrowed and a smug smile appeared on her face. I sat down near the back, unnoticed. It was better this way for now. As the meeting started, Marilyn's eyes locked onto mine, surprised I was even there. She marched over, her heels echoing in the quiet room. "What are you doing here, Julian?" she whispered, angry. "This meeting is for senior management, not employees like you." I looked up at her, keeping my voice calm. "I was invited." Marilyn scoffed and leaned in close. "You don't belong here. Leave before you embarrass yourself." The room was tense, but I stayed calm. The meeting was starting, and soon the truth would come out. Before she could say more, the president walked in, followed by the board members. As he sat at the head of the table, he scanned the room and looked at Marilyn, who quickly straightened up, putting on a professional face. The meeting started with the usual updates, profit reports, and plans for the next quarter. But I knew what was coming next. The president cleared his throat, looking at a document in front of him. "Before we continue, there's something important we need to address," he said, his voice firm. "I've been told there's some confusion about the ownership of the company." Marilyn shifted uncomfortably in her seat, glancing at me. "You see," the president continued, looking right at me, "we have a special controlling shareholder here." Marilyn looked confused, her confident face fading. "The majority of the company's shares, 91% to be exact, are owned by Julian Ball." The room gasped. Marilyn turned pale, shock on her face. She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing. I stayed calm, sitting still. The president pointed at me. "Julian isn't just an employee. He's the one in charge here, a fact I've known for years." Marilyn looked like she was about to collapse, her face going red. This can't be true," she stammered. "He's just a lowly employee." "Not exactly," I interrupted, standing up. "I've been watching, waiting. And now the truth is out." Her face turned bright red. For the first time, she was speechless. "You treated me, and others, badly because you didn't know who I was. But now, you'll face the consequences," I said, staring her down. Marilyn's downfall had begun. The day after the meeting was quiet, but I could feel the tension. The office was still shocked from the meeting. People who had known me for years suddenly avoided eye contact, looking at me with confusion and respect. My secret was out, but it had changed everything. At noon, the president called for an emergency meeting in his office. Marilyn and I were both called in, and I knew exactly why. As I walked toward the president's office, I saw Marilyn ahead of me, her usual confident steps slower, more unsure. We reached the door at the same time, but she didn't greet me. For the first time since I'd known her, Marilyn Curtis seemed uncertain. We entered the president's office. He sat behind his large desk, his hands folded, his face serious. The silence felt heavy, like he was still processing what had happened. "Sit down," he ordered, his voice calm but firm. We both obeyed. Marilyn shifted in her seat, stealing glances at me. I noticed her usual composure was cracking. "You both dedicated your lives to this company," the president began, looking between us. "But what happened yesterday changes everything." Marilyn's composure slipped even further, and she spoke, her voice quiet. "Mr. Williams, Enough," he interrupted sharply. "I've heard enough excuses. The damage you've caused, Marilyn, can't be fixed with words." Her eyes widened, and her lips trembled. "But I didn't know who Julian was," she stammered. "If I had known." "That's exactly the problem," I said calmly. "It shouldn't matter who I am. You treated everyone beneath you with disdain." The president nodded, leaning back in his chair. "Julian's right. Not knowing his position doesn't excuse your behavior. This company values respect and collaboration, which you've undermined with your arrogance." Marilyn clenched her hands, her voice growing more desperate. "Please, I can change. I was under pressure to perform and—" "Stop," the president cut her off. "You crossed too many lines, Marilyn. The accusations against you, like mishandling clients and employee harassment, are serious." She turned to me, her eyes pleading. "Julian, you understand, don't you? We've all made mistakes. With your influence, we can work something out." I met her gaze, remembering the months of mistreatment. This isn't about mistakes. It's about accountability. Her face fell, and she slumped back into her chair, defeated. The president sighed. "Marilyn Curtis, your actions leave me no choice. Effective immediately, you're dismissed from your position." The words hit like a hammer, final and heavy. Marilyn went pale. She didn't speak. The meeting was over, and so was her reign. The room was silent now, the tension gone. Marilyn sat still, staring at nothing. I watched her, feeling a mix of satisfaction and pity. She had brought this on herself, but it was always hard to see someone fall. The president stood, signaling the end of the meeting. You have until the end of the day to gather your things. Security will escort you out. Marilyn blinked, her hands trembling. This can't be happening, she whispered to herself. She turned toward me, desperation in her eyes. Julian, please, she begged. You know I didn't mean for things to go this far. I was trying to prove myself. I was under pressure. You can understand that, can't you? I looked at her for a moment, feeling the weight of the past months. I understand pressure, I said, but I don't understand cruelty. Her face fell, and she had no response. Just silence. The president cleared his throat. That's enough. Marilyn, you've made your choices. Now you must face the consequences. Marilyn looked like she might protest, but the president's expression stopped her. She stood shakily, nodding once. Fine, she whispered, I'll leave. As she turned to leave, the door creaked open, breaking the silence. Marilyn hesitated, then glanced at me one last time. The arrogance that had once defined her was gone, replaced by something broken. I said nothing, only watched as she left, the weight of her defeat hanging in the air. The president sighed again, rubbing his temples. I never thought it would come to this, he said quietly, but it had to be done. I nodded. It was overdue. He smiled tiredly. Julian, you handled this with more grace than most would have. I'm proud of you. I didn't respond right away, unsure how to feel about everything that had just happened. Thank you, I said after a moment.
Have you ever had to be the strong one in your family? Share your story below, and if this message resonates with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more real stories of growth, resilience, and self-leadership.